Hi there, this is the Arab Carthage bringing you another Rome Total War online commentary battle. This time I'm the Dacians facing off against the SPQR Romans. Let me show you the army I brought. I have 3 units of gold Falksmen, I have 5 units of gold Chosen Swordsmen, and I have 5 units of Chosen Archer Warband, 4 units of Barbarian Noble Cavalry. And I think they're like silver upgrades. So I have a pretty tough army. Let's look at my opponent's army. He's got 3 units of Roman archers, 5 units of urban cohorts, of course, always urban cohorts. Now let me show you, these urban cohorts only have 1 upgrade. 1. Alright? Just want you to see that. Let's go over here. He's got Praetorian Cavalry, and they have massive upgrades. It looks like gold plus an experienced chevron or 2. So all of his money is packed into his cavalry. So I expect his cavalry to be pretty strong. But what you're about to see is what I would consider to be one of the largest rip-offs in the history of all of my games online. Because, don't get me wrong, I have a barbarian army. Barbarians are a bit panicky and weak sometimes, and I'm not the best at using them. But I mean, these guys in my army are no slouches. They have armor, chosen swordsmen, chosen archer warband. My Falksmen are the weakest units, but even they have those giant swords. And they do have a high attack, even though they have a low defense. So you can see I started off the battle, I slaughtered his town watch, and now I'm going to take out a bunch of his archers. And I think he obviously knows he's not going to win this archer duel. So he moves up his Praetorian cavalry. And you're going to see, like I said, one of what I consider to be the biggest rip-offs. I guess all of their upgrades is what's saving them. I pour archer fire all over them and it barely kills any of them. Which, I don't care how upgraded your armor is on the man, the horse is not armored. So you'd still be losing lots of horses to arrows. So he charges into 4 Barbarian Noble Cavalry, 2 units of Falksmen with a 3rd behind, and watch what happens. My units rout instantly. See that? What a rip-off. That's why I hate these guys. And they're taking almost no losses, even in the face of overwhelming numbers and archer fire being poured in from the flanks. And not only do they rout my cavalry, not just some of it, but all of it, they rout my Falksmen also. They're pretty good at fighting cavalry. So he routs every last bit of all that with just those 3 units of Praetorians. Now he's got a unit of Triarii here, but they're not going to cause very much damage because Triarii suck. So his cavalry comes in and I'm going to swamp them with my chosen swordsmen. And finally that's enough to scare them out. I have units regrouping in the back, thank goodness, because half my army ran away just at the sight of 3 of his units of horse. And here you can see that they aren't even that heavily depleted, even though they're still taking archer fire in the rear. So they're gonna easily reroute that unit. Now here comes all my cavalry back in for another engagement. They're still getting hit by archer fire in the rear, but of course my cavalry isn't going to be as strong because they've already routed. But even still, they're holding them here. They're still taking all this rear fire. They're still alive, which is making me pretty angry. So once again all my units rout, which I kind of expected, but I also expected that rear archer fire to take these guys down, but it really still hasn't done that much damage. And so at this point I'm starting to get really angry, because this is beyond ridiculous for 3 units of horses to be able to completely control my entire army. So I'm bringing these Falksmen in to try and intercept, and they're just going to miss, but they're going to keep chasing him. Falksmen have the fast moving traits, so they'll be pretty close behind the cavalry. Now I don't know if you thought this was my archers, but it was actually my chosen swordsmen, so finally I can lay it down on these Praetorian cavalry. And makes me pretty angry how much damage these guys have caused. And finally, facing overwhelmingly huge numbers and being surrounded, I finally get 2 of them to rout, but look, one of them still doesn't rout. Pretty amazing, huh? Facing overwhelming odds, there they go, finally. So he's moved up his infantry a little bit, but now my forces are pretty badly hurt from his 3 units of invincible horses. So I'm going to have to try and reform and see what I can do. Now remember, my forces are all heavily upgraded, whereas his urbans are barely upgraded. So let's see what happens in this infantry fight. Now, granted, I don't do the best job of controlling my troops here in a moment, but let's see what happens anyway. Well, here comes his Praetorians. They're already back and ready to fight, and they rout one of my unit of chosen swordsmen, amazingly enough, even being depleted and broken ones already. So, they're back in the game, being cheap as they are. My horses don't slow them down, and they continue to rout my troops, even depleted and having been broken. So here, he brings in his troops in a ball, and I do the same, except remember, his troops aren't upgraded. They're being hit in the rear with flaming arrow fire from chosen archer warbands, which have a 10 attack. So that's a pretty strong missile attack. But of course, it's not slowing them down too fast, even though my men are more upgraded. Now, here comes his cheap cavalry once again, barely touches the rear of my army, and routs every single one of them.
Your warlord's bowels have turned to water, and he runs from the fight. Better that he died.
So he had unupgraded urbans that barely took any losses to my heavily upgraded chosen units, and his urbans had to come in and breathe down my neck, and my guys rout instantly, even with archer fire pouring into the rear. So this battle made me kind of mad. These 3 units of horses beat my entire army. My entire army. So now you know why I absolutely hate Praetorian cavalry. Because historically speaking, if the Romans ever did have good cavalry, it was because they hired someone else's cavalry. Roman cavalry typically sucked
is no reward for the death of
because
brave warriors.
they just weren't, they wasn't their specialty. They were good with heavy infantry. So as you can see, I got soundly defeated basically by the same 3 units of horses that were completely unstoppable by my entire army. Horses whose skin is so tough that it cannot be penetrated by arrows, and their soldiers apparently don't mind that half of them were killed. They'll come right back into the battle like nothing ever happened. But in any case, I guess I have to say good game to my opponent. Don't really know how to say his name because it's kind of strange. But that was a clear defeat for me. I just wanted to load this up to show you why I hate urbans and Praetorian cavalry. And if you have a hard time winning a fight with urbans and Praetorian cavalry, then either your opponent's a lot better than you, or you're not very good at this game.